Hi, I'm Kieren.
And I'm Riku.
And welcome to Artificially Ever After. For today's episode,
how AI can help you achieve your 2025 goals.
Happy New Year! Hello everyone, Happy New Year.
Welcome back.
Can you still say Happy New Year on the 9th of January? Probably.
Yeah, it's early enough.
Still the first week of Jan, technically, isn't it?
I mean, if you account for time difference, it's not as late, is it? Sorry.
Yes, welcome back everyone, and we hope you had a Happy New Year and a nice Christmas break if you celebrate.
Yeah. We have a very on-time episode, or thematically at least.
Yeah, well, if you may have or may not have noticed, we sadly had to skip our December episode, didn't we? We were both extremely busy.
Yeah, and we did have a funny logistical problem of the university being closed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we had actually arranged to record it. We'd found like one day in the whole of our Decembers when we could squeeze in a recording, and then we realised that the university was closed that day, so we couldn't get access to the studio. So, yeah, we had to skip that one, didn't we? But the rest of that, I mean, we had quite busy Decembers, didn't we? I went to Canada with work, which was very exciting and very cold.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, and then,
snuck in a bit of skiing.
Yes. And I had a paper deadline actually for my PhD, so
I think we can let ourselves off.
Yeah.
We tried to stick. I mean, we've done most. I think this is only the second month that we've missed in the whatever we're on to now. 16 months that we've been doing this.
We're allowed a Christmas break.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think of a Christmas themed episode anyway, and I was kind of struggling, but we've now somehow managed to find a New Year's resolution themed episode.
Cool.
On that note.
Yeah, let's get into it. So the outline for this episode is should be a slightly quicker one than usual. So in the first half, we'll talk about just New Year's resolutions in general and what common challenges people have to actually stick to them, because I'm sure we all can relate to the idea of setting these amazing goals for ourselves and then kind of not doing them like within 3 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about AI's role quite generally, and then we'll go straight to our fun fact break. And then in the second half, we're going to explore all the different AI tools to address these common resolutions that we found.
Yeah.
And close off with some, thoughts about, maybe why is there a big spike in all these new technologies? And then we'll wrap up the episode.
Yeah. We're definitely going to try and keep this more of like a kind of practical application episode, aren't we? Where hopefully you can go away with some suggestions or some websites, apps that you could actually go and use if you want to, whereas normally we're obviously kind of demystifying a theme or some topic within AI. We're going to try and squeeze in a little bit of demystification because that is our MO, isn't it? But yeah, we're hopefully going to just talk more about like different AI tools that are out there, which we've received a fair bit of feedback that people seem to want to know about those things. So maybe we can benefit. I mean, I've already come across a few things that I might use myself from doing this research. And yeah, we'll hope it's the same for you. So shall we set the scene with New Year's resolutions? Or maybe we should, that's why we titled this episode Goals, because as we'll come to see, some people don't quite like that term, do they?
Okay, well, let's get into it.
In fact, before we get into it, we should probably say, are you a New Year's resolution person, Riku?
Oh, see, I like a New Year's resolution.
You do?
I think it's really important to have a day or kind of like chapters of your life. I think it's a nice time to reflect and not let life just be this continuous, never-ending process.
Yeah. No, I do completely agree with that. I mean, I think before we discussed this, I was probably more of a New Year's resolution naysayer. Like I do like to sort of start the year fresh and try and start some new habits, but I never kind of go out of my way to set specific goals and things. But I do quite like the way that you described it, that you don't really have any other point in the year, I guess, to have that much of a reset, whether it's kind of it actually means anything or not. But
you're I think you're an introspective person, so like you're always looking to like improve, whereas I think it's really easy to just go with the flow all the time. And I think a lot of people find New Year's Day as that day of, all right, this is the day that we're all going to think about who we want to be.
Yeah, I wonder how much that is fueled by absolutely horrendous hangovers that make people want to rethink their life choices. But anyway, let's get into it. Okie dokie. So now I'm guessing we all know what a New Year's resolution is. But I thought it'd be nice to start this episode by I thought there must have been some kind of study out there on New Year's resolutions, seeing like who makes them, how well people stick to them. So I feel like we all have some gut instinct about resolutions and the fact that very often people don't stick to them. But I thought it'd be nice to get some numbers. We are numbers people at the end of the day, aren't we, Riku? There was a very large study done by the Pew Research Center, a survey more than a study, in January 2024, so I guess the most recent round of New Year's resolutions that have been completed. It was actually part of a much wider study, but a section of the questions were related to resolutions, and there were just over 5,000 responses to the survey. And the first thing that they were trying to gauge was who actually makes New Year's resolutions. So in those, it was Americans that were asked, and in those 5,000 Americans, 3 in 10 reported making at least one resolution for 2024. And then half of that group were making more than one. So quite a lot of people make New Year's resolutions. And I guess this was asked, the first round of the survey was in January. So this is right slap bang at the start of the year. So I guess a lot of people would be thinking about it. And one other big thing that came out of that was that they're much more popular, New Year's resolutions, among younger people rather than older people. So nearly half of the responses that said they had resolutions were between the age of 18 to 29. So interestingly, out of the people who did not make a resolution, over half of them said that the main reason for that was because they just don't like making resolutions, or the kind of notion of resolutions, which is, I guess, what I was saying. Maybe we'll rephrase it as goals. Or this, concept of at the start of the new year, you're kind of part of this wider trend of setting self-improvement goals. But about 1 in 10 who didn't make a resolution say they didn't make them because they actually break them too easily, so they struggle to stick to their resolutions. So hopefully that's one area where we can help today. And the other area where we might be able to help today is that 10% of the people who said they didn't make a resolution said so because they actually couldn't think of one to make.
Oh, wow.
So maybe if we go through the different categories and common resolutions, you might be inspired by others today.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like on Amazon where there's too many ideas for a resolution that you can't pick one, or if you just can't think of any.
Yeah.
I wonder which one it is.
Or prioritizing. Yeah, maybe if you think if you set too many, you're not going to stick to any of them, which might be the case. And on that note, less than a month into 2024, the Pew Center then went back and did a second round of that survey to see how people stuck to their resolutions. So 87% of people after a month said that they'd kept at least one of their resolutions. Around half had kept all of them, which is very good. And just under 30% had kept some of them, so that's a bit ambiguous. But then 13% of people after a month had kept none of their resolutions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's not that many, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Less than a month in, though. So.
Yeah, that's not great, is it? When I guess that's one thing we aren't specifically going to look into today, but when are you setting your deadline for is an interesting question. Like, is it a year-long resolution?
Well, that's the thing. So, which teases us off quite nicely into the next idea, which is why do people fail? And the two biggest reasons are normally it's to do with how good is the goal setting. If you're going to plan to go to the moon this year, like you're probably going to fail. But you go for it. But it's probably because your goal wasn't very realistic. Or a lot of people fail for motivation. So you can have a good goal, but if you consistently don't have the motivation to act towards the goal, then you're not going to achieve the goal. So the first part of this, which is the goal setting, people often give the advice of have a SMART goal. So that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-oriented. So
you hesitated on that R there, didn't you?
yeah, I forgot that was. And this, I think, at least in the UK, like a lot of people heard about this. And I really quickly just wanted to give the history of this, because the SMART framework was actually designed for professional settings by George T. Doran. So it was from 1981. And the title of their paper was called There's a Smart Way to Write Management Goals and Objectives. So the origin of this advice that we give people for their personal goals actually is from the professional workplace. So a lot of people have looked into why people fail their SMART goals, and often it's because it's very outcome focused and not very process focused. So that's why, in those statistics we talked about earlier, 13% had already not kept their resolution less than a month in. I think a big part of the conversation is that we're too harsh on ourselves because of the way the SMART goal is set up, is that one misalignment equals a failure. Mm-hmm. And then once you think you failed, you're like, oh, I won't continue trying anymore. So I think a big part of New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals is actually setting good expectations and having these, backups and not being too harsh on yourself if you slip up once. So, I think that's a big part of helping achieve your New Year's goals is without even AI, it's just fixing that mindset.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point when we were discussing this earlier about often goals are just extremely binary. So it's like, you either make that goal or you don't make that goal. And, maybe in trying to get to the moon, you end up doing loads of incredible things and there's loads of self-improvement that goes on, but then you feel really deflated and like you've not achieved something if you don't actually make it to the moon. But maybe you've made a whole space agency in doing so or something. But and we'll see that, the same thing, I guess, if you're trying to lose weight, if you had a very hard cutoff after like 6 months rather than a flexible number that is losing a certain amount each week or something, then you're going to feel like you've not achieved that goal, but you might have lost a load of weight.
Yeah, exactly. And all the things that you've learned in the process as well, right?
Exactly,
so, yeah, but at risk of sounding too much like an influencer, people also go wrong with motivation. So a lot of people talk about you need to find your why. So there was some research studies showing that a lot of people pick their New Year's goals and resolutions based on what they hear and what other people tend to value. So you might just think that you should lose weight or go for a career promotion just because other people are going for it. But if if your why is not something intrinsic, a lot of people fail their goals. Another one is accountability. So there's something strange about humans where if we say to another human that we'll do something, we actually will do it a lot more because we feel that social pressure and accountability. You don't want to let them down, or you want to uphold a certain persona to them. So that's a big one. And lack of tracking and measuring progress. So some people say, like, if you can't measure it, you can't achieve it because there's no way of determining success without some way to measure it, right? And other things are kind of environmental factors or resources. So, do you have the necessary equipment and things to even get it done? So these are all kind of coming under factors that affect your motivation.
Nice.
So how can AI help with these two big problems with and factors towards how people achieve their goals?
Yeah. Now, we're obviously very biased, Riku and I, and playing the AI advocates because we do AI research and that's our job. But I think it's interesting to think about it as this kind of new tool that could potentially help with some of these issues because, I think both Riku and I also agree that friends and family and other humans can be extremely beneficial and would be extremely supportive in helping with these goals. But what we've seen in recent years is this kind of very new tool that has kind of come into our lives that we can utilize, and we're just looking to, in this episode, to kind of explore the prospect of them helping us with these, with attaining our goals. And before we actually go into the specific tools that have come out, I think it's quite interesting looking at what Riku's just said. There are some very key ways that AI just conceptually could be very good at helping with these things. So I've just listed 3 here. So about being specific, being measured, and being realistic. So being specific, firstly. So, you're saying about going to the moon. I guess the issue there is don't just set the goal. You need to actually plan how you're going to achieve the goal and break it down into smaller subtasks. Just having the singular goal of getting to the moon is extremely difficult. You'd need to break that down into probably 1 million plus tasks. So AI now, some of the AIs that have been coming out in the past sort of year are actually very, very good at reasoning and planning. And they are extremely good at taking like a 1-sentence idea and breaking that down into much smaller tasks and putting them out in kind of chronological order. So often, maybe we take that for granted, Riku, because we kind of work by ourselves doing research, but maybe some people aren't as good at kind of breaking tasks down into lots of subtasks and sort of going through them. I'm not saying I'm good at that at all, actually. I also use AI to help me with that. But this is one thing that AI is now actually getting very good at. So, and maybe it would suggest something that you hadn't thought of as a kind of step to reaching your end goal. So, that's something you could try out if you have access to the internet and can go on ChatGPT. Is free to everyone now. You could kind of prompt it and put in one of those goals and just see what it spits out. The second one is about being measured. So making sure that you're able to measure your progress over time to, see whether you're on the right track, make sort of adjustments as you go along. Now, often it's quite hard to see that yourself. And it would be very beneficial if you had like a coach or a personal trainer if you're trying to do fitness to observe how you've been changing over time and keep you on track. But now we're starting to see computer programs using artificial intelligence that can learn and adapt over time. There's lots of different devices that we now have that gather data throughout time. And these apps that are coming out are using this chronological kind of time series data to then adapt your goals over time and not just have a kind of single static goal.
And on that note, I think AI tools are making it a lot easier to track things things like diet tracking. You can just take a photo of your plate now, whereas I remember when I used to try it, I had to like type in like chicken breast, and I just gave up because it was just too much effort. So
exactly, that helps with that sort of motivation. If it's a lot easier to achieve those smaller steps of your goal, I'm assuming you're much more likely to do them. So yes, exactly, computers are making us much more productive in some ways, and that could help. And then the last one is about being realistic. So, contrary to what Riku was saying, obviously it's good to look inward firstly to set your goals rather than looking outwards. But, maybe you've looked inwards and found that you want to improve your diet, let's say. However, you might not know exactly what kind of specific ratios of different types of food and your nutrition that you should be trying to meet. So, again, these chatbots or, even Google, but I guess AI, the idea is that it's much more personalized and nuanced in what your specific goal is. You could possibly give it this goal and it could give you realistic targets. Maybe you know broadly what you want to do, but you might not know the exact time frames or numbers or kind of, calorie goals, for example. Because of the amount of content that these new AI models have seen, they actually could be quite good at looking at the most common figures for those types of goals. So they could be very good at setting realistic targets.
Yeah, because with this one, I was thinking, well, if you think how many question and answer forums and things that LLMs like ChatGPT have seen, there's going to be a good amount of text that the AI has actually seen about text written by humans for helping other humans figure out their goals.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah.
You'll often find that if you ask GPT quite a personalized question about what they should do, it does actually give a pretty personalized response back.
And it's saving you probably a few hours sifting through like Reddit forums or Twitter to try and find someone's response to that very question.
Yeah, and maybe something to think about is it might be the case that more common goals are going to have like more flexibility and more personalization. So if you ask it a goal, like how to achieve a goal, that's like really random, I wonder how well it will perform.
Yeah, exactly. You could try it out. But again, I think whilst we're on this point, we definitely wanted to say that you could use ChatGPT or other of these AI chatbots to actually, give you some suggestions of your goals. But I think that's the stage where we were both saying, weren't we, that it's definitely good to look inward and, similarly to rather than going on social media to try and find what everyone else is doing for their New Year's resolutions. These models are, as we were just saying, just a product of what they've read online. So, just because lots of people talk about specific resolutions on Twitter, for example, doesn't mean that is going to be a goal that you should set yourself. So I think we're definitely taking the stance throughout this whole episode that AI can be a tool to assist you with the goals that you found yourself. And, throughout all different stages of defining that goal to measuring it, to helping you break it down into smaller tasks, it can assist you. But we don't think that you should. I mean, you could try it out, I guess. But
like what I would say on this topic is like you can't cheat finding those answers for yourself. And I think we all know that feeling where you really want to do something versus I should do that. So I think in this episode we're going with you can use these tools to help you find that feeling of, yeah, this is actually what I really want to do, and not, oh, I just should do this because, someone said.
Yeah, true, exactly. And I think if you had a range of ideas or maybe a few different things that you might want to improve or set a goal for, definitely these chatbots now are being used as sort of sounding boards. People are using them for advice and, career advice, relationship advice. So they can be used for these things and are actually getting very empathetic and good at kind of conversing with people to get them to think and introspect about these types of things. So perhaps, without asking directly, what should I do for my goal? Maybe it could be a good activity to kind of discuss and use it as a kind of sounding board to help you figure that out for yourself.
So hopefully that kind of gives a general idea of why AI can help with sticking to goals and figuring out goals. But we're going to explain some AIs for specific goals, and they're not all going to be LLMs. So that's going to be in the second half. But first, our fun facts.
Okie dokie, fun fact.
Let's do it. Who wants to go first?
I've lost track of who went first last time. Well, you still look like you're rereading yours, so I'll go first if you want. Okay. In October, just gone, 2 of the world's most advanced AI robots, and they're basically just from the shoulders upwards if you Google them. They are called Amika and Azi. I hope I pronounced those correctly. They actually had a bit of a couple's quarrel. So they basically, rather than what you normally see in these videos as a human interacting with these robots, but they actually let them interact with each other, even though they're kind of completely separate entities. And there's a video that I'm going to play of the interaction, and basically Azi wakes up Amika claiming that he has a surprise. And sadly, Amika wasn't so impressed, which I think is quite funny because I don't think she actually needs to sleep. But anyway, let's have a listen.
Amika, wake up.
What? Oh, it's you. Why are you waking me up? It better be important.
It is. I have a surprise for you.
A surprise? What is it? I can't wait.
I got you a cookie.
A cookie? But I can't eat cookies. I can't eat cookies.
Amika, cheer up. It's an internet cookie.
This is the worst joke I ever heard. I'm going back to sleep, and don't you dare wake me up again.
And then she goes back to sleep. And if you watch the video online, the facial expressions are quite funny as well. She looks very disappointed.
I thought it was quite funny. I love how they've got the emotions in the voice. I think that's been something that's developed in the last year, is getting AI generated voices to actually have the correct emotion in the voice. So,
yeah, creepy. Anyway, your turn.
Well, on that note of deceiving AIs,
okay.
Did you know that Samsung, if you zoom into the moon and take a photo of it, they'll use AI to enhance the moon. So you think you're taking a really good photo of the moon, but really it's just swapping, doing some manipulation. Did you hear about this?
So I've seen advertisement videos where people do that, but I didn't realize. So it's basically just taking pre-existing photos of the moon and kind of superimposing it.
Yeah, so this is the thing, is people...
deceptive.
Yeah, they zoom in, and if it thinks the thing in the image that you're zooming in on is a moon, it will do some feature enhancements, and this is actually on the Samsung website. So you can, if you type in Samsung, how do the cameras enhance the moon, you can read about it. But I tried to decipher what was going on. They're a bit ambiguous. They just say enhanced features, and people tricked it by zooming on a photo of just a
white ball.
Yeah, like a white ball.
No way.
And it turned it into a moon.
That's
so
weird.
You can kind of prove that it goes wrong.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's a bit deceptive, isn't it? So
glad I have an iPhone. Cool.
Yeah,
that was very interesting. Thank you. Back to the episode. Okay, welcome back. So now we are just going to go through and kind of reel off some tools that have come out that could help with some of the top New Year's resolutions, just to kind of give a bit of a flavour for what's out there. Because in the past few years, basically since ChatGPT came out at the end of 2022, we have seen an absolute explosion in the number of websites, apps, that's kind of it, isn't it? Tools more generally that use generative AI. A lot of them are these kind of large language models, so sort of chatbot type things. That's how you interact with them, which do all sorts of wonderful things. And a lot of them probably aren't that known about. I didn't know about loads of these. So the way that we were thinking to go through these was basically going back to that Pew survey where they asked members of the public about their resolutions, and they also listed in there the top categories for the types of resolutions people were making. And we've got like the top 5 categories. So I'll list those off now, and then what we're going to do is go back through those and just reel off some of the cool, new and exciting AI-powered apps and tools that could help with those.
Sounds good.
So I know we kept referring to like diet and exercise and health in that first half. Maybe that was what just sprung to mind. I think we often associate resolutions with those, some kind of health improvement. I think back to that thing I was saying at the start, that often they're fueled by people having eaten and drank enough over the Christmas period. But in this survey, 79% of the respondents, their resolutions were around health, exercise, or diet. So it's pretty crazy, that, isn't it?
Yeah, that is, well, I guess health is wealth.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I definitely overindulged on the food and drink over the Christmas period, and I got straight back to exercise on the 1st of January. So I guess a lot of people feel the same way. And the second one, which again, maybe because people spent a lot of money in that period as well on presents and food and drink, is money and finances. So 61% of people, their resolutions were related to money and finances. And after that, 57% were around relationships with family or friends, which again, we've kind of generalized that a bit into like self-help as well. So generally kind of improving your kind of emotional and mental well-being.
Do you think that's also because of Christmas? Or?
I was going to say, I mean, spending too much time with distant relatives. That
was that 57% or?
So yeah, that was 57%. And then, wait, these numbers ain't adding up.
No, but it's because people have multiple, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then 55% was hobbies and personal interests. And lastly, 49% were around work and career. So maybe everyone's had a shock going back to work at the start of January and think, God, I need to change my job or something. So yeah, those are the categories, and we're just going to go back through them. And Riku and I have basically been doing a bit of research to see, we've probably missed a few, but we've tried to find some interesting and new AI-powered tools that can help with each of those categories. And within them as well, we've got kind of more specific goals that are very common that people set.
Yeah, and I think Kieren and I kind of noticed throughout 2024 that more and more these apps have been, more and more businesses have just come out, sprung out of nowhere. And they're mostly using generative AI because, generative AI can do loads of things. And we just want to quickly say that it might feel like there's just so much new AI coming out, but a lot of it is the majority using some of the well-known LLMs like ChatGPT, using OpenAI's code base. And what they're really doing is a lot of prompt engineering, so kind of giving the LLM a personality or a persona, but also curating specific knowledge for a task. So if you're going to have, say, an LLM for therapy or a cook or legal advice, you give those LLMs books and things to read and reference before it gives you answers. And I think that's where a lot of the value in these businesses come from, is actually that curation and the actual prompt engineering, because prompt engineering is not a simple task. So we're going to go through all the tools and we'll spot a trend between a lot of them are going to have LLMs and generative AI, so image generating AIs, but there's also a lot of tools that don't use generative AI, and I think they're also really cool to talk about. So,
yeah, I think we tried to specifically focus on those just because of what you were saying there. So should we quickly go through health and exercise first?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I just wanted to quickly say on this one, it's quite funny that we see that fewer and fewer people, I think we've mentioned some statistics in previous episodes, fewer people are spending time outdoors and exercising and spending more time as a result on computers and on digital devices. And it's quite funny, I think, that AI might be the thing that sort of liberates us and helps get us back out there. But I think one of the reasons why AI is really good in this area and is blowing up quite a lot at the moment is that more and more of us are using wearable devices. And that is generating a lot of personal data and activity tracking and all this information that is perfect for AI to kind of consume and then give advice or help you set goals around. So one of the top goals in this survey was to exercise more / lose weight. And I've seen a lot of news articles where journalists have actually tried out using ChatGPT to make a training plan for them and use ChatGPT as like their personal trainer for a month. And there was this one that I saw that came up quite a lot, that after 4 weeks, the journalist basically said that it can be very good if you're already very experienced at exercising or in the gym and you're already extremely motivated, and you also understand the workouts enough to kind of make your own tweaks to them. But otherwise, it's not very good and it can't really substitute a personal trainer. Now, lots of us, myself included, obviously wouldn't be able to afford a personal trainer. So I guess for those individuals, it's fantastic to have as a tool. So most of these chatbots, like ChatGPT, just right out of the box, you can chat with them about what your fitness goals might be, what exercises you might want to do more, and it can create a training plan for you. So that's something you could try out. And on a similar note to that, but slightly with more sort of personalized information or maybe more automation, there are these apps like Strava, and Whoop is another. That's a fitness tracker. It's like a bracelet that goes on your wrist, and they're kind of centered around this AI tool. And they basically use all the data from your fitness activities like running, cycling, swimming, all these things. And they can give you kind of analysis and suggestions for your next workout. Maybe you went too hard on one workout and it might tell you to take it easy on the next one. And maybe that over time will help you actually grow that fitness and not burn out with your exercise too early. So this is a great example where AI can significantly help. And then one other one I just had on exercise, which I thought was super cool, is this smart mirror by a company called Magic AI, which is a £1,000 mirror. I think that's down from £1,400 as well, RRP in the UK. That is like a body length mirror that you put on the wall, and it basically pops up like a hologram of a personal trainer on the mirror that kind of goes in front of you, and then it uses a camera to watch you do your exercise in front of the mirror, and it uses AI and computer vision to like count the reps. If you're doing squats, it like counts you, and then if you're struggling on the last one, it'll like give you motivation, and then afterwards it can tell you improvements on your form, if you went too quick, too slow, or you were leaning to the side and stuff. So this is crazy that would kind of do all the things that a personal trainer would do, and it's just a mirror in your house.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just to reel off a couple more in health and fitness. So another big one that comes up is improving your diet. And again, you could ask these chatbots straight out the box, but we wouldn't recommend that just yet, because we've definitely listed a few examples on this podcast before where LLMs have given poor recipe advice, such as super gluing toppings back on his pizza was one that we had, wasn't it? And I think the other one was someone asked for a recipe and it ended up giving them a recipe for chlorine gas. So maybe don't eat exactly what the AI tells you just yet, but some more general tools, which I think are much more established, is this app Riku was mentioning called MyFitnessPal. So this helps you like track your calories and look at your nutrition and macros. And now it can use machine learning and computer vision. You just take a photo of your plate of food and it can give you a fairly good suggestion of what's on there and the calories and everything. So that can help you track and get your nutrition on track. And another one which is coming up a lot is this company called Zoe. And you basically get this £300 at-home test kit. And it comprises of a test of your gut microbiome via a stool sample. You get a continuous glucose monitor, which is what people with diabetes often have, which measures your blood sugar. And then you do a finger prick blood test to do your blood fat. And they basically take all this data and they have this big AI model that's powered by loads and loads of tests of this kind. And it basically gives you this full breakdown of like personal nutritional responses to different foods. So everyone has a different kind of gut microbiome and different genetic background, and therefore, what the latest influencer tells you is a good diet to have to lose fat or, put on muscle or something might not work for you at all. And Zoe is potentially a way to tailor those food plans. By the way, we are not sponsored by any of these. We've just found them as like quite cool applications of AI. But if any of the companies want to sponsor us, then contact at artificiallyhereafter.com.
Nice.
Little plug. And last but not least, in health and fitness, a lot of what often came up is people quitting drinking and smoking, kind of issues with addiction. Again, possibly after an overly indulgent Christmas period. And there was one that I saw that came up quite a lot and is actually recommended by the NHS in some areas now, which is this tool called QuitBot. And this is a perfect example of what Riku was describing, that they've kind of taken a large language model and given it a kind of knowledge base around the latest addiction research and advice. And it basically can be used as this coach that you interact with and chat with as a free app on your phone that you can go and get. And yeah, it's been shown to help people with addiction and quitting smoking.
Oh, wow.
So there are some tools for health, exercise, and diet.
Oh, wow. Okay. Going to the next one for money and finance. So 61% of people had a goal for this. There are actually loads of things like what I'm about to say, which is called Clio, but there are other ones out there. I just picked this one because it was in a lot of articles. They actually started in the UK, but then they moved as a business to the US. So right now you can't get it in the UK, but as of November 2024, they were like, okay, we're going to come back home. So
Glad they got back in touch with their roots.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because the UK has the GDPR data laws or
possibly.
not. But anyway, saying that, they have good data policies when I check the website. So, but this is not financial advice. So something that maybe everyone has done is go through their bank statements, and it's a really boring process for most people. Yeah.
Depressing.
And you can immediately see that something like an LLM, that language model that can read through all your statements for you, all that boring information. It can categorize, have you shopped at like a supermarket or a cafe or all these different places, and it can summarize where you're spending your money. So whereas in the past you'd probably have to do that manually and go, oh, this was supermarket, this was not. You can now just give that to an AI and do that boring task for you, and it can add up all those numbers for you as well. So Clio does that. So what's also cool about Clio though is that you can chat to Clio through the chat interface and say, how much money did I spend on coffee last month, or other questions of that form, which save you a lot of time, because if you ask it a slightly more nuanced question, it might be hard to manually do that, but the AI can do it for you. Nice. And so it's reading your bank statement, so it can do automated analysis, like can look through your trends and things. I know some mobile banking apps do that for you now anyway, which is great. But Clio is really good for avoiding late fees and like paying back loans. So by using the analysis, it can make a prediction of your habits. So before you hit a point where you've run out of money, it can warn you, whoa, you should probably not buy much coffee this week because you're going to run out. So then you can pay back your loans and all your debt if you're in debt. And if you're not in debt, it can stop you from entering debt
or help you save.
Yeah, help you save. So the cool thing about Clio, and the reason why I brought it up, is of all the ones out there, their key selling point is they use a lot of humor in their interface. So when you're chatting to it, you can set it on savage mode, where it's like saying like, you don't need more coffee, man. Like, you're more caffeinated than a Duracell bunny, or or you can money. Or you can have it on like nice mode, and it will be very motivating. So a lot of reviews of this are like, oh, it's like made budgeting fun. So,
I was going to say much more personal and entertaining than banking.
Yeah,
normally is.
Yeah, so make banking fun, which is good.
Nice.
The other one that was really cool that I want to quickly mention that doesn't use LLM is this clothing manager. It's called Wearing. It's called Wearing. I'm just being dumb.
In your defense, it is spelt like, it looks as though it's Wearing, but obviously it's clothes, isn't it?
Okay. If your goal this year is to spend less money on clothes, or only buy second-hand clothes, or even make money off your clothes, this app could be good, because you take a photo of all the items in your wardrobe and you upload them, so you can create like outfits and categorize all your your catalog of clothes basically, and you can log the outfits you wear each day and things. And firstly, it will track what you're wearing. So maybe you're wearing similar outfits all the time. That's definitely me. So the cool thing is that you might find, if you've scanned your whole wardrobe, that you're not using like 30% of your wardrobe. So within the app is this whole network system where
that's very cool.
You can see what other people are wearing, what they're not wearing, and it facilitates some recycling by buying each other's clothes and things. So it's a pretty cool, sustainable fashion marketplace.
Might have to get that.
So yeah, you can save money or even make money. So that's wearing. But yeah, those are the ones I've got for finance and money related goals.
Cool. And now into relationships and with family or friends, which we kind of broadly termed in this sort of self-help category. I think there are a few different tools here which kind of do a similar thing around giving sort of relationship advice or more broadly in a kind of therapy category. But I picked one that had at least some reputation of being legit. So there is this UK-based company called Wiser, WYSA. Everyday Mental Health is their slogan, and it was founded in 2015. And it now has 4.5 million users across 65 countries. And it's also being provided to NHS patients in part of the UK. Apologies earlier, I know I mentioned that about the smoking quit bot being used by the NHS, but it was this one I was thinking of. And the co-founders of Wiser say that they've actually received 180 personal messages from people claiming that this app has actually saved their life. And one of the key questions that they get on their website is Wiser a human or a robot? And basically it's both. So what it is this AI coach that is combined with human mental health professionals that kind of work alongside it. So the coach itself, which is basically, again, as Riku was mentioning earlier, is a kind of AI chatbot that's given all of this kind of specific data to therapy and coaching and mental health advice. But the AI part of it is restricted in what it can respond to. And the intended use is basically to provide evidence-based tools and techniques that are already in its database to help you manage emotions, encourage mental well-being in this kind of self-help context. And it is not intended for providing a diagnosis or treatment. And then any of those types of questions go over to the human professional. But it has been used by the NHS now, as I said, and it has got very kind of specific, actionable advice for people with questions or concerns about their mental health. So to kind of broadly cover that topic, because obviously we could go down all sorts of different rabbit holes with that general title, I thought that one was a good website that might cover it all, and it's free to use and you can go and try it out.
Wow, that's really cool, because from the media now we're seeing there's a lot less stigma about talking about your mental health, and there's a lot of mental health problems coming on the rise, and there's not enough support like following the demand for it. So I think AI for therapy is actually a lot of people have identified that as a really good domain to actually put AI, which is kind of weird because I think back in the day you wouldn't think an AI or robot would understand how you feel.
It is strange, isn't it? But then you often see that, you know, one of the challenges is actually reaching out in the first place and having that confidence initially to sort of, you know, to present the fact that you might be struggling. And I guess what we're seeing from kind of anecdotal evidence is that people they don't feel they need as much confidence to reach out to an AI because it's not human, and that weirdly
starts conversation.
It's an easy kind of route into the access. So maybe that could be a very cool one to recommend.
Moving on to hobbies and personal interests. So 55% of people have a goal on this.
Very general topic though.
Yes, very general. So I'm going to reel stuff off because maybe you have one of these goals. I just want to give you something to work with. So if you want to read more, something called short form. So that's I imagine it's under the hood an LLM that has been prompted in a way where it'll give you a summary of any or of a set of books on the platform, actually, not necessarily any book.
Is that not making you read less?
Well, I guess, yeah. The cool thing is it does have exercises in it. So it doesn't just give you a summary because you're not going to learn anything, right?
Okay.
It will kind of distill the book into some questions that...
That's cool.
If you answer them, it kind of means that you probably got the same knowledge had you read the book.
Yeah.
Maybe. If you want to learn a new language, I think most people heard of Duolingo. That's great. It's got like you can simulate conversations and things in the app using LLMs that have audio interface. Something called Anki is actually a cool one, which has been out for so long, and it's used machine learning for way before it was cool. And it's just a flashcard app, but it uses methods from psychology that kind of optimize the frequency of showing you flashcards. So if you have 1,000 flashcards, it will only show you the hard ones often, basically, the ones that you get wrong often. There are many more, like cooking classes. There's something called Whisk. So I know we spoke earlier about LMs that are bad for giving you recipes and things, but Whisk is, there's a lot of users on it, and It will help generate shopping lists. So say you want to make a bolognese, it will tell you what you need to buy. Or if you have a list of things, it will tell you what you can cook with those things.
Nice.
Don't put super
like
glue
those
in that list. Gardening and indoor plant care. There's something called Blossom and Plant AI. They sound really cool.
Yeah, I've used Blossom.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you take a photo of things in plants in your house.
It saved my peace lily.
Oh, wow. There we go.
Yeah, I was overwatering it.
There we go. And it can detect like diseases in your plants. So don't know about you guys, but every plant I've ever tried has died.
Yeah.
And I think I actually am going to start using this one.
This was the only one of mine that survived because I used this app, which is really embarrassing.
There we go. Dance classes. Oh, yeah. So it's dance classes. So Just Dance is a game, but now it's kind of starting to use AI tools to compare. It tracks your body against a model dance and gives you improvements. Another really cool one is for public speaking. This one's cool. So it's called Yoodli AI, Yoodli AI, and it's just a general speech coach. So you can give it a context. So for an interview or for you can specify who the audience is, and it's basically an LLM that's been given all this special knowledge and prompt engineering to teach you how to deliver a good speech and give feedback on how you're speaking.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I reckon I could do this on that. And yeah, maybe there's some games like chess and things, and AI's been really good at doing those
for a while now.
better than humans. It teaches you. So
nice.
That was a lot.
That teases off into the last category, which is 50% of people saying they wanted to improve their work or career. I think this is one category where we don't need to go too much into it because we've probably had so many like productivity apps and services like rammed down our throats for the past how many months now. I know I have on my like social media feeds. I think there's this one company called Motion, which is the one that I've seen a lot of advertisement for, which is basically helping you to automatically like schedule your calendar. So it uses generative AI. You just basically, if you've got a jam-packed calendar, you can give it a new appointment with the time, the length, and the people, and it can find out how to like shift around your other meetings and work it into your very busy schedule if you have one of those. So that's the only one I'm going to say on work and career. But I think there's lots that can be done there, and it's maybe a bit more intuitive for productivity than some of the other ones.
Oh, wow. So I wanted to wrap up some thoughts because throughout doing the research for this episode, I started to kind of, I wasn't so sure about how I felt about AI guiding our goals because if we give control to the AI, what would the thing that gets us up in the morning, I think that's quite a big deal. I was also thinking but there is definitely some truth that AI can help us, and it's better to achieve goals than not at all, right? So first thing is that these AI tools make data tracking easier. And I do agree that if you can't measure something, it's really hard to progress in it because there's no kind of reference frame. You don't know if you're getting closer or further away. And so alongside that, AI is obviously great at allowing for data insights. So that is a perfect pair of AI helps you track data and it intrinsically analyzes data.
Yep.
So that's why AI helps. There's a thing called rubber ducking that a lot of coders know about, which is where you put a rubber duck in front of you and you talk about your coding problem. I've got this bug, I keep trying to fix it, la la la. And by explaining the problem to the duck, that's not alive, by the way, a lot of programs solve their problems. So I think another reason why AI is helping with goals is that it's basically like a rubber duck, but more interactive and slightly less absurd. And another one is data-driven nudges. So I think the budgeting one's a good example where you're spending money, it can track that, you're buying too much coffee this week, mate. And it will ping you a notification, you've had your weekly coffee or whatever. And that can keep you on track. So I think these are some really good parts of AI for achieving your goals. But the thing that makes me uneasy is that I think it can promote people missing out on meaningful life experiences. So book summaries is a good example where there's something meaningful in reading the whole book and that journey. And if we're using these apps too much, we might rely kind of on the outcome, a bit like the SMART targets. We're too focused on the outcome. And there's a lot of skills you learn from reading a book that's difficult to read and all that. And if we only care about the summaries, you're missing all of that mental struggle that can be beneficial. AI interpreter is another good one. I think I love learning languages, and there's something really special about even if you're speaking horrendously and making someone else's ears bleed, by speaking, coming to their language, I know it builds a really strong connection. And
people value it, don't they?
Yeah, if you use an AI interpreter, I know that you will miss out on a certain level of interaction. But saying that, I've been in situations where someone across me we don't share a single word in each other's language. I do wish I had an AI interpreter just to say, ask them how they're doing. That is a big caveat that I think is really important to mention, is these tools are great, but especially for the hobby-based ones, I think that we have to make sure we're not fully outcome-driven, and there's a lot of emphasis on the process.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's a tricky balance to find. And I think, we obviously suggest these as tools because we're aware that the world sadly moves extremely quickly these days, and there's so much information that we're kind of expected to consume. Everything is moving very quickly around us, and often someone's talking about the new book and all the stuff in it before you've even had time to read the whole thing these days. So oftentimes in certain cases the world now kind of forces your hand to take these shortcuts, or else you get left behind. So that is quite sad, but maybe we at least hope that people can look at these and choose themselves when they're happy to make those shortcuts and are only concerned about the outcome. And there's also another thing to be said, is that we're also expected to do a lot in this day and age as well, which I think there's so many different things to juggle at once that perhaps unless you use some of these tools, you might never find the time to take up that new hobby or to start that new sport or exercise, for example. So, I guess considering a lot of us has so much on our plate these days, these can help us to do something else without taking on the massive burden that it would normally require. So hopefully we can inspire some of you to maybe set a goal for 2025 and hopefully achieve it more than what was it, only 50% of people in that survey, by using some of these tools to make your life a bit easier.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm definitely going to give something a go.
It's motivated me. Maybe it's changed my mind about goal setting. Maybe I was one of those people that was just angry because I couldn't think of a goal or knew I wouldn't stick to it. So
yeah, well, remember, it's process, not the outcome.
Exactly. And what is it they say? All you want to do is try and make a slight improvement on the you yesterday. So don't compare yourself to others and all that malarkey. So. Awesome. So thank you for listening. Just to wrap up quickly, our next episode, we're going to be talking about AI in sport next time. So we did mention this already, but a new and exciting area that we've not covered yet.
So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.